My grandma was born Susan Carol Schwartz in New York City on October 10th, 1947, about a year and a half after her father returned from World War II. She grew up in Queens, New York. A typical day in her early life would start with her waking up and walking to her segregated elementary school. After school, she would walk home and do her homework. Then, she would go outside and play games like tag and stickball. Back then, neighborhoods were thought to be safe, so kids were a lot more independent than they are now. In high school, she went to an integrated school back before it was mandatory. There were about 6,000 kids at the school. It was a great social education, although it wasn't as good academically. She liked it a lot and learned a lot about people there. In the 70s, the movements for equal rights gained momentum. The two biggest movements that she was involved in were the women's rights and the anti war movements. The anti war movement was against sending people to the war in Vietnam. The Vietnam War was a terrible war, and many people came back different, physically and mentally. The whole mentality of the movement was to avoid the draft. Her husband developed high blood pressure out of fear and got out of being drafted on account of it. The women's movement gave her the inspiration to go back to school and get her PhD, which was frowned upon before. She grew up in a traditional time and women were supposed to stay at home and support their husbands. The decision to go back to school changed her life and paved the way for her career as a psychologist. Her life was greatly impacted by the movements she was a part of, and she wouldn't be who she is today if she had lived in a different time.